Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio here on another episode of the EdUp Experience, as we are now approaching 1,200 episodes, if you could believe it. And with my guest today, I got to tell you, it's like I have never podcasted in my entire life. I can't get my microphone, parts of my microphone to be in focus on screen. I was on the wrong Zoom link to be able to record, so I almost started talking to my guest, and literally we would have had a next level conversation. I already know, I could tell you that the conversation's next level, and we wouldn't have recorded it. But my guest, he noticed, he said, "Are we actually going to record this?" I said, I think hitting the record button would probably be a good idea. I mean, I don't know what you think. So we got on the right Zoom link. We did hit record. We are recording now. And you know what? Technology gets all of us some days. It does. Why am I having this trouble? Because Elvin Freitas, co-founder, took the main Zoom link. So I'm using my spare Zoom link, which is not set up to do anything automatically, and I need it to happen automatically. Anyway, long story short, even amidst trouble and barriers and obstacles, there are still ways for us to succeed. And that's a good metaphor for how things are working in higher education today. We have barriers, obstacles, lots happening around us, but there are universities that are really taking things to the next level. And I've got a guest here with me today. I'm going to bring him in right now, and he's going to tell us what's going on at his university. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Dr. John Comferford. He is president at Otterbein University. John, welcome to an EdUp Mic. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great, Joe, and thanks for bringing a studio audience. I really appreciate it. They're great.
Well, you know what? If I didn't ever know they were here, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's right. I mean, you got them off screen there somewhere. It's very impressive.
Yeah, it's my kids, and they're in the background. That's just two of them. Noise. No. Well, listen, we want to get started and talk and have you tell us all about what's going on at your university. So level set for us. Tell us who you serve at Otterbein and how you serve them.
Block out your calendar, bring your team, and lock in your spot, because Insights EDU early bird pricing ends December 15th. We'll see you in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. For 3 days, that will disrupt what you think you know about marketing and enrollment for today's modern learner. The EdUp Experience has delivered over 1,000 episodes with higher ed leaders from around the world. Now you can support the show for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life when you join before December 31st, 2025. You'll enjoy ad-free early access to episodes. Go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and secure your lifetime rate today.
Okay, so Otterbein is just outside of Columbus, Ohio, in beautiful Westerville. About 2,400 or so traditional undergraduate students. We have a partnership that we can talk about called the Coalition for the Common Good, where we're in partnership with Antioch University, and that's sort of our adult learning wing, as it were, graduate programs and all of that. And I describe Otterbein proudly as a heart-of-the-curve institution. We serve students that are college ready. We don't do remedial work. And we get great diversity. We have rich and poor and black and white and Christian and Muslim and Democrat and Republican. They're all here. And it's really a great place to be. Also, the institution, there are lots of institutions that would look at the resources we have with jealousy. And we look at a lot of schools that have $1 billion in their endowment with jealousy about what they have. And so we're right in the middle somewhere, and it's a good place to be.
Yeah, I think that gives you flexibility, doesn't it? It's good to have the financial sustainability. It's also good not to be so overly comfortable that complacency replaces urgency, because we still have to have urgency, right? We're still building for students. We still need to change our business model for the future. Talk about that balance a little bit. How you balance success with complacency. How do you move everybody forward with a mindset for change amidst some disruption in our industry?
Yeah, Joe, it's a big question, but to your first point, I've never wanted a job where the job was just don't break it. Everything's perfect. It's all great. Don't mess it up. That sounds awful to me. And so, yeah, I don't want to be at a school that's on death's door and is scraping to make payroll every month. But also, I want to be a place where there's a little reason to try some things, to experiment a little bit, to take some risks. That's the fun part. To me, it has always been about being mission-centric first, which sounds a little cliche, but it's true. If you can bring it back to, this is going to help us serve students. This is going to help us serve our community. This is going to give us better learning outcomes for our graduates. It's going to lower debt loads. These sorts of things will rally people to the cause. It's also the case that this is my 13th year as a college president. Time flies when you're having fun. And so you get used to the fact that not everyone's going to love everything that you do. And so when you're trying new things, you don't need everybody. You just need most. And then you can go. And also, the last thing I'll say is being comfortable with stuff that doesn't work. Not everything you're going to try is going to work. You got to know when to stop. You got to, just because you tried it once shouldn't be there forever. And so it's knowing when to end, it's no harm, no foul. Not everything's supposed to work. Yeah,
it's true. You know what? It's funny because you're kind of talking about, it's not funny, but change management, leadership amidst change, mindset's so important. And I was talking to somebody recently about change management in higher education because it's not the easiest thing to do, especially when you have negative inertia. There's going to be a contingent of folks that no matter what kind of change you bring in, doesn't matter what it is, are your staunch defenders. They're just not going to go along with anything, even no matter how many times you try to convince them. There's this like 20% of people that are they're the nose. And, there's the 80%, maybe it's 60% of the 80 that are in the middle and they need some convincing and transparency. And then you've got your leads, right? People that are like, let's go and let's change something. But as leaders, sometimes we focus so much time on that 20% that's never going to change because we feel some responsibility to try to pull everyone along that it really slows down our ability to change in higher ed. You just touched on that briefly. Like not everybody's going to always be on board, but we still have to change when it's necessary. Can you talk a bit about that and ensuring that you're moving people forward, bringing people along as best you can, but sometimes you just got to make a decision?
Yeah. So 13 years ago, I started as president of Blackburn College in Illinois. Great school, great job. Missed the folks there. But being a brand new president and it's young and everything else, we all have this human want, Joe, to be liked, right? We want people to like us. We want people to feel good about us. And I want everybody to like me. And so as we were, doing work and making changes and doing things that had to be done, I had this group that was sort of a constant no and a constant sort of source of complaints, whatever. And by God, I resolved, I'm going to get these people on my side. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to address their concerns. And so I spent a lot of time going to their offices and engaging with them. And they ate that up. I mean, they were always happy to see me and we would talk about this stuff. But they would inevitably stay no's on that issue or the next issue. And eventually I figured out what I was really doing was empowering the naysayers by seeking them out in such a way and elevating their voice above other voices. I think our campuses are full of great people who understand the need to evolve as an organization. And not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I want to make sure those people are heard. I want to hear those voices. I want to hear why. I want to understand what is it that they're defending? What is the thing they're worried about? So I can maybe understand better. It's not just people who are just grousing to grouse. But then you can't, if you get consensus, then you haven't made a real decision. Consensus is a way station on the road to mediocrity. And so you've got to get comfortable with that. And I've got to say, I'm comfortable with that now, I think, for the most part. But early in my presidency years, I think that was hard for me. It is hard to know that some people are not just going to not like what you've decided or what you're working on, but will actively sometimes work against you. But that's just the nature of the beast in any organization of size. That's how it happens sometimes.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
You talked about the Coalition for the Common Good, so I want to go there because I've got so many questions coming out. Tell us how this happened, what is it, and what impact is it having?
Yeah, so this started, sort of coming out of COVID in those years. We were doing a strategic planning process and put in the strategic plan, and the campus vetted and the board vetted and all that stuff, the idea of institutional collaboration. That smaller schools like us were going to need to find ways to scale, find ways to collaborate, one of the misnomers, in my opinion, of higher education is that there's just not enough students to go around. We got to fight with each other over students. I think that's silly in lots of ways that we can get into. And so we had that in there, and we began exploring different paths. We had confidential conversations with an institution near us about ways to collaborate. We had discussions about shared services with another institution. We looked for a little while, actually fairly seriously, at buying a for-profit institution and running it as an arm, and then using it as a feeder. And then actually Antioch University came to us. They were looking for partnership as well. And we quickly figured out that was the path that made the most sense, because Otterbein is a great undergraduate institution, but the growth market is adult learning. And we're not well set up for adult learning at Otterbein. It's just not the heart of what we do here. Antioch is an entirely adult organization with 5 campuses coast to coast. And so we could take what we did in the adult space and scale it up nationally through Antioch and really have a piece of that without having to give up what made Otterbein and the undergraduate education that we do so well.
Okay. I have to tell you, this is one of the very few times when a college president will come on and say, look, my institution is just not set up for this. There have been so many, and not just people I've interviewed, so many institutions of higher education that see that too. They go, look, it's the adult learner. This is where the growth is. We're going to just go. We're going to go get them. We're going to go after them. We're going to do these programs. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And the lack of realization, and I say this because I have personally been over recruitment at many universities where I've recruited traditional learners and adult learners, and sometimes both simultaneously. The infrastructure, campus infrastructure, services infrastructure, technology infrastructure, everything is completely, the marketing enrollment, everything is so different for an adult learner. And then they recognize that, but then want to also go and do it, not with trying to honor the current model and to hope that they can make some small adjustments to capture that market when it needs massive change, massive organizational, institutional change to capture that market. What brought you to that point where you went, you know what, it might be harder to change the whole trajectory of this institution, mission, everything, than just partner with somebody where it makes a lot more sense? Like, what brought you to that point where you realized that?
I think what brought me there, and I think what brought most people at Otterbein there, including our board, was we didn't want to give up what Otterbein was. Right? I mean, and so Otterbein, I guess, could have launched its own campuses in Seattle and LA and New England and invested a bunch of money in adult degree completion and graduate programs and tried to scale up. And we've seen other schools try that. There's a few success stories out there, like a Southern New Hampshire, where they're now a big national player in that. But I think when I say Southern New Hampshire, and by the way, I'm not knocking it, could be other schools as well. When you say that, you now conjure an adult learning organization, largely online, so forth and so on. You don't think of a campus in Southern New Hampshire. You don't think of 18 to 22-year-olds. That's become their brand, and they're good at it, so good for them. But I think the brand of Otterbein and what we're good at is 18 to 22-year-old transformative undergraduate liberal arts education. We're great at it, and we can get into how we're great at it, but no one wanted to give that up. And that's our faculty and who we hire to teach our students. That's how we're set up administratively. It's how we staff our offices. We're set up for that. And trying to serve two masters felt like a risk to what we were really good at.
Yeah, it's such a good, this is like podcast gold here, my friend John, podcast gold. I personally can tell you in my past sitting around a table where 50, maybe almost 60% of the population was on ground and 40% was adult learner online, more than 40%. And going through this 2-hour-long strategic planning session where we're talking about how to serve the student, and you get to the end, and we had spent the entire 2 hours talking about the 60% on ground and dorms and food and all of these things related to an on-ground student. And somebody at the end, it was actually our enrollment, our VP of enrollment for online, says, hey, can we extend the meeting and talk about our 40 5% of online students we haven't even discussed. And so that's where that identity crisis can happen for an institution, and how much better off and more focused your institution will be by maintaining what you're really, really good at. I just love this sentiment. And then it coming all the way back around to change management. Was this Coalition for the Common Good a tough pill to swallow for Otterbein? Was everybody going, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense? How did you bring that to fruition among your faculty staff? Maybe everybody thought we should just do it ourselves. Why do we have to partner? Give us the scenario.
Yeah. So I said before, consensus means you haven't really made a decision. So I would never could say there was consensus. People had different reactions to this, and that's alumni and board members and faculty and staff and even current students and things like that. I think what won the day here was, one, the business model just made a lot of sense. That what Otterbein did in the adult space, which we did have a dozen or so graduate programs, maybe about 300 or so graduate students, all local to Columbus. Actually, we had seen a slippage in graduate enrollment. It wasn't really going in the right direction. Good programs, though. It just made sense that those could become Antioch programs and scale nationally, and Antioch was set up for this, and we weren't. So the business model made sense. I will say, Joe, the biggest thing, though, that I think made this possible on campus was that it didn't change most people's day-to-day work. If you're a faculty member or a staff member at Otterbein, you're working with 18 to 22-year-olds, you're teaching your classes in the day, and this is a way to ask you to only do that better. We're not going to change your life. We're not going to have you teach a night class online. We're not going to change what you do. And I think we all have a natural sort of fear of change and whatever. And so don't get me wrong, there are changes here. But most people, after we did this, went back and did the same job they had done before. And so that reduced the level of threat.
You mentioned earlier that the idea that everybody's scraping for the same couple of students may not hold water. Can you dive into that a little bit for us? Because that is part of the conversation around higher ed right now, is that, enrollment's dying everywhere and we're all after the same couple of students. And is that reality on the ground? Well, actually, let me clarify. A lot of thought leaders outside of higher education paint a picture of that's what it's like inside higher education. What's the real view?
If you're afraid of success, this message isn't for you. Every year, higher ed talks about change. But Insights EDU 2026, it's the catalyst. The Modern Learner Report drops here first, revealing how learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. Spoiler, most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. Over 65 powerhouse speakers. Real strategy, real data. Only built for leaders ready to own their transformation. Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. Support the EdUp experience for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life. You'll get ad-free early access to episodes. But hurry, price goes up after December 31st, 2025. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and click support the show.
So I think if that's your view inside of higher education, it's your own fault for lack of creativity. The reality is there is lots of fighting over the same groups of students. You said it, Joe. We're all fighting for the 30 ACT, 4.0 GPA, honor roll student out of high school. And we do too at Otterbein. Those are great students. Like, of course, we all want those kind of students. There is no growth in that market. That is highly competitive, and you're going to see a decreasing revenue per student as everyone else is throwing all their merit aid at those same students. So it's a shrinking market where the revenue per student's going down. That's a business model that's a road to nowhere. And if that's what you think higher ed needs to do, and you're about rankings and prestige, then you're on a road to nowhere. I'm sorry to say, but you are. If you can open up your institution to serving underserved populations, serving those students that might not think about, especially your private college under normal circumstances, where you can, through partnership or on your own, serve adult learners and other populations that, frankly, U.S. News will not reward you for serving, but it's the right thing to do. It is mission-centric. You will change lives. Then there are plenty of students to serve. But this is a corruption in the heart of higher education. We are so focused on elitism and prestige that many institutions cannot reconcile with opening their doors wider to serve college-ready students who deserve a transformative education.
You think that's
end of speech? There you go.
Yeah, no, I love it. And there's always the question I have of why. Why the prestige? Why the rankings? Do we believe that reputationally that somehow that leads to the conversation over the barbecue of well, my kid's at XYZ University, ha ha ha. Is it that moment? Is it because that's what we've always done, because the industry has been engineered for that, and now we're starting to see some change, right? Carnegie changes its classifications, brings in opportunity schools, and all of a sudden you can get a recognition by serving students that may not you wouldn't in the past have served. Why are we stuck with elitism, do you think? Your opinion, what is it about this whole higher ed thing that makes us elitists?
I think, Joe, because we do not have a good way to measure and compare ourselves to other institutions. And so we've given that away to US News and other magazines or whatever, whose goal it is to sell magazines and subscriptions now to websites. It is not their goal to help students. It is not their goal to help higher education and industry to make this country a better place. It's their goal to make money. And so we have outsourced how we measure our success to these companies because we don't have a good way to talk about it internally. I talk on campus a lot about we need to be distinctive. We want to be different than other institutions. I don't want to be just like near us, Ohio Wesleyan or Denison or Capital, whatever. Those are all great institutions. Good for them. What makes Otterbein different? What makes our tour different? If you visit our campus, are you going to get the same? Well, here's our nice science center, and here's our old castle-looking building. And look, our dining hall is so delicious. I mean, what makes us different? And we have to be clear about what that is to help students make a better choice. Because ultimately, that's not just about my success as leader of Otterbein and Otterbein's success. It's about student success. If we can help students find their right match institution, and it's not about a ranking. No ranking's ever going to tell you your match. It's your match. You're more likely to retain and graduate. And as a system, we're terrible at that.
100%.
I want to come. That's good. That's good, and I agree. And the sort of a key topic that came out of that was the idea of differentiation. It is a crowded marketplace. No matter how you look at it, there are a lot of colleges, there are a lot of choices, and if you have less students looking at them, that makes it even the supply line is obviously disrupted. So differentiating an institution amidst a crowded marketplace, and not just differentiating against the institution down the road, but differentiating and showing relevance for a potential college student that's going, well, maybe I should just take these non-credit courses over here with this non-credit provider and see how it goes. I mean, so we're not only institution today isn't only competing against another institution on the road. They're competing for interest against, Instagram slide of Elon Musk saying, don't go to college. I mean, it just, there's a lot of content and noise for students that is confusing them around the value of college. Can you talk about differentiation? How often does it come up amongst you and your cabinet? How often do you discuss it? How do you action it? And how important is it?
I think we talk about it a lot. It's not to say, Joe, that we're ever perfect about this. I think if you took a tour at Otterbein, we would show you our old castle building. It's Towers Hall, and it's gorgeous. And we'd show you the Science Center. And I'm going to say 80% of the tour might not be all that differentiated. But we've talked about, there are sort of three pillars here for us that we're trying to say makes Otterbein different. One is access and affordability. We're the only college in the state of Ohio that if you are eligible for the Pell Grant and the matching state need-based grant, we're going to give you free tuition, no loans, debt-free degree. No other school does it, including the publics. And that's opening the door wider. We haven't changed our admissions requirements. You still have to be admitted, but that's opening the door wider financially. Number two for us is our main competitors are now the big publics. We don't really compete much with the other small privates. We compete with big publics. And in some way, that's not fair because the big publics get their state subsidies that we don't get. On the other hand, if we're going to compete with a school with 30, 40, 50,000 students, Otterbein is different. and we can lean into how we're different. And the summary we were saying is experiential learning. You can go there and watch, or you can come here and do. Do you want to watch football or play football? Do you want to be on the esports team? Do you want to be in the marching band? Do you want to be in the equine team? Do you want to be women's wrestling? Do you want to be in the schools, in the nursing lab as a freshman, or do you want to wait until your junior year? These sorts of things that small schools can deliver in a way that big schools can't has to be different for us. Part of that is also career development. We're going to have liberal arts. Every student is required to have an internship or study abroad to graduate. Every student every fall has to go to a day-long career conference, meeting alums, doing mock resumes and cover letters. You've got to do it. Every student has an academic and career map from the moment they're on campus. And then the third leg for us is this partnership with Antioch gives us some advantages of scale that other small schools won't have. So we can have more study abroad opportunities, more career connections, and we can overlap your senior year with your graduate degree. So we can count up to 9 credit hours of your senior year to knock a whole semester off of graduate school in what we call graduate early admissions pathways. And those are all things where we think what we're doing is different than other schools. And those other schools aren't bad schools. I hope they're doing things that are different than us. But we've got to have a concise, clear thing that says Otterbein does these things, and you're probably not going to find them in these ways at other schools.
By the way, to your earlier point about, it just made me think of it, when you were talking about U.S. News World Report and rankings elitism, I could guess everything around it is to you and many other college presidents that I talked to. When that ranking time would come around, I would end up with these gifts from different schools on my, and I don't want to go into it, but send me this gift. Pretty cool. Maybe I remember the name and give somebody a peer ranking that's higher because I got this gift. Very subjective, something that we have to continue to deconstruct, I think. So when you look at your competition and you're talking about competing with the big publics, the advantage of being a big public is name recognition. And the challenge for Otterbein is the same. It's name recognition. It's becoming a household name or getting your message out there. Can you talk about how you take the academic model, the differentiation, and blast it as far and wide as you can?
Yeah, so we do that. But first, another advantage public have that I think is even bigger than name recognition is a perception of affordability.
Yes.
Well, I can afford to go to public school. I can't afford a private college. And so they don't even apply to us. That's the reason we did this thing where if you get the Pell Grant, we're going to cover your whole tuition. We wanted something short, easy to understand that would drive those first-gen low-income students to look at us as an option. Otherwise, they won't even look, and then you can't package them and you can't get them. So this is, Joe, I don't have all the answers. And this is one where, how do you spread the word on this? Well, you go on your podcast, and then I assume everyone's going to know all about us.
Smart move.
I know this is really why I'm here. But the reality is we don't have like some huge multi-million-dollar marketing budget. We do what we can there. We find we end up with pipelines out of certain high schools and communities where it's a word of mouth thing. And obviously in Central Ohio, we have a very strong reputation and strong brand. The further you get out, the less likely it is you've heard of Otterbein. And when you leave the state, it's pretty not a high likelihood when you leave the state. And so that means our enrollment, we focus largely in our backyard. 85% of enrollment is from the state of Ohio. That's not an accident. For us to go to Dallas and open up a new market in Dallas involves a level of investment that probably we don't want to spend that money. It's better invested here in our backyard. And two, the students that are most likely to travel a distance to go to school are the exact ones that we're all fighting over already. They're the higher test score, higher GPA, higher family income students that are able to look around the country, and good for them. But that's putting us into the most competitive part of the market. So I would love to be a little more diverse than the 85% Ohio, and we're talking about some ways to do that internationally and whatnot. But that's been the answer for us so far, for better or for worse, is to focus in the backyard.
No, I think that's part of differentiation in my mind too, is know your market. Know your market. Put your dollars where you're going to have the biggest bang for your buck and your cost per student, and all those metrics that come on the front end. It's attractive to go bigger, very expensive to go bigger. And when you're dealing with limited resources, you got to spend where you get the biggest bang for your buck. And through partnerships, that's where you can expand, is through pipelines with other colleges, with other businesses, right? And being established in the business community. Give us maybe a quick minute or two on, how you're tied into the business community and getting your students in local businesses and keeping them in the area and producing or contributing to the local economy.
Yeah, I love that. And so, our current students, as I mentioned, have to do an internship. Most of them do internships or study abroad or something immersive like that. So we've had to expand the number of internships, and we needed corporate partnerships to do that. How do we do that? We went to these companies, and we're lucky to be in Columbus, or just outside of Columbus. That is a growing area. It's boomtown right now. And so we went to these growing companies who are in need of talent. They want to bring in young people in the internships. But more importantly, we said, well, hey, we want a partnership with you. We want it to be two directions. So we want some of those internship opportunities, some contact with your HR about workforce development and all that. What we're going to do is we're going to give your employees and your employees' children an automatic scholarship to Otterbein. And so we have $20,000 per student, and our sticker price is $34,000. And so that gets us down to the price of a public, basically. And so if you're an employee of Ohio Health or CODA, which is the Columbus Area Regional Transit, the buses and all of that, or at this point, 22 other large employers, there's an automatic partnership that's an employee benefit. And so then what do we get, Joe? We get applications from bus drivers' kids that might not have otherwise thought about a private college. And so we're getting applications because of these partnerships that we would otherwise not ever get. And so it's really both sides win if we get this right. They get this benefit and they get a pipeline for their workforce. And then we get the chance to at least talk to a lot of students that otherwise might not look our way.
That's what Access is all about. So many of those students, too, you wonder, were they even going to go to college or even think that a private college could be possible for them? And giving them and changing their mind that it is possible is how you not only create a pipeline into Otterbein, but to higher education, period. We always end with the same two questions, and we are going to bring you back for a subscriber-only episode. And by the way, I could keep going with you for a lot longer than we have on this conversation. But we want to give you an open mic. The first question is, what else do you want to say about Otterbein University that we haven't brought up? Anything that's on your mind? Anything you want to say? No direction. Give us a couple minutes. What do you got?
So maybe this is just top of mind for me right now because I've been talking to some other schools and whatever. You can't buy culture, and I am lucky to be at a place that has great culture. That you asked, like, how do we get certain things done or whatever? We have a really supportive campus vibe, and we have a vibe on campus where we've launched a lot of these programs. When I came at this point 7+ years ago as a new president here, and a lot of places a new president shows up and says, I know what we're going to do. We're going to make tuition free for high-need students. You'd have the faculty run you out of town, the board, the alums upset, and this is sort of this elitism vibe, right? This is a place where that was embraced. And if I'm thankful for anything every day, it's that Otterbein knows what Otterbein is, and we like what we are. We are not trying to be something else. We are not in the rat race to move up whatever list. And then you and I know most schools secretly want to be that next level, and that next level wants to be the next level, and then everyone ultimately wants to be Harvard or Berkeley or wherever. It's not a business model. It is not our work as charities to be on that path. Our work as charities is to make this world a better place, and to be at a place that gets it in its core is, I think, the most special thing about Otterbein.
Oh, amen to that. Maybe the easiest question, but hardest at the same time, and the final. What do you see for the future of higher education?
If you're afraid of success, go ahead and tune out, because this segment is not for you. Every year, higher ed talks about change, but Insights EDU 2026, that's not another conference. It's the catalyst. It's where fresh data drops, revealing real insights on how modern learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. And here's a spoiler for higher ed leaders. Most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach, February 17th to the 19th, 2026, in Fort Lauderdale. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, 40 sessions, zero fluff. We're talking unfiltered strategy, AI integrations, and forward thinking built for the leaders who want to disrupt before they're disrupted. So here's the question. Are you ready to lead transformation or be overtaken by it? Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. EdUp Experience have brought you powerful conversations with more than 400 college presidents and higher ed leaders, over 1,000 episodes and counting. Now, we're inviting you to join us in shaping the future of higher ed podcasting. For just $5.99 a month, you lock in that rate for life, but only if you sign up before December 31st, 2025. As a supporter, you'll get ad-free early access to episodes. Prices go up after December 31st, but your rate never will. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and join our community today.
Oh, that's not an easy question, Joe. Not even a little bit. You're setting me up. I'm like, oh, this is going to be an easy last question.
One to talk about your university, and then the hard one where we, quote you live here on the EdUp Experience on what you see for the future of higher ed.
No pressure at all. I see a lot more. You could call it consolidation or cooperation. I think there are parts of the country where, given the demographics, we are overbuilt. We have too many schools with too many seats. And I love those schools, but if you don't have a significant endowment and you're in a rural location, you don't have a program mix that's in demand, it's hard out there. And the reality is those schools are driving up the discount rate for everybody else, right? Yes. Because they're so desperate to put butts in seats, they'll give it away almost for free. And so that's not a business model for them, won't last long. I hope we find economies of scale through things like the Coalition for the Common Good. We'll see some closures. I think, too, we are going to have to get used to being held accountable for workforce outcomes. Workforce is not a bad word. Now, I believe in liberal arts. I believe in learning for learning's sakes. I don't believe in narrow training. But that we are more connected to those who will hire our graduates, and we are held accountable for our success in doing that, is something that I think we ought to welcome. And I think it's an outcome students and families want, and politicians now want. It's going to be linked to funding and grants and everything else. And so we ought to welcome that with open arms.
So good, my friend. So good. Well, we're going to bring you back quickly for a subscriber-only episode, but I want to outro you in the appropriate way and bring back our studio audience here that is very excited to have heard from you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a president who tells you like it is. Which we appreciate here at EdUp, unfiltered thoughts and opinions. He's Dr. John Comferford.
A standing ovation. That's not necessary. Thanks, everybody.
President of Otterbein University. You just EdUp'd.